Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Soul Shift Messages. If you are going through a transition, awakening, or deep inner change, you're in the right place. Take a deep breath and let these messages meet you where you are. As always, please remember to take what resonates and leave what doesn't for someone else. Nothing good comes out of trying to force things to fit. And I trust you to know your journey best and know what aligns with you and what doesn't. If you're new here, uh, please know I cuss. Um, Part of this channel is about honesty, authenticity, and being real, and part of that is knowing that I cuss. And once I start going and the channels start flowing, I just can't be sure what comes out. So if you stick around, you've been warned. And if that doesn't align with you, you are more than welcome to leave and find another channeler who's more aligned with you. So without further ado, I do have some channeled messages. And actually, before I get going, they want me to talk about the energy right now. And there's just a lot going on right now. We've kind of had some quick back-to-back portals that started in December. We had the winter solstice on December 21st. We had the 1-1 portal. And actually, before I get too far with that, if you are watching this at a later date and these dates don't quite resonate with the calendar date you're watching it, please trust the timing of these messages. There may, if this found its way to you, I trust there is something in here for you to receive. So if this opening part doesn't align, that's okay. We'll move through it in a timely manner. All right, so to not lose that train of thought, so we had the 1-1 portal, we had the full moon on whatever Saturday was. Maybe that was the 4th. Don't quote me on that. And then we also have the 1-11 portal quickly approaching on Sunday. So if you feel like there's been a lot of quick changes, you're not crazy. I don't know who needs to hear that. You're not crazy. There's been a lot of shifts. There's a lot of energy moving around you, and that'll actually tie into some of the channel messages that I got. And for some of you, I can tell you from my personal experience, I've actually noticed it, and you may not be having the same experience. So if you aren't, that's okay. Honor your pace, honor what is happening with you. But I know for me, the shifts have been very meaningful, but they've also been very quiet. So like mine have really been somatic releases. Like basically I wake up the next morning and I feel significantly lighter than the day before. So like it's not like this big, boom. It's just I wake up and it's like I literally feel like a different person. And if you are experiencing that too, again, you're not imagining that. There is truth in that. Some of you could be feeling energy coming back to you. Some of you may feel your vitality coming back. You have more energy. You have more motivation, but it doesn't feel as tied to urgency or they're saying anxiety, it's almost like clean motivation. Like you want to do things, but for some of you, you also recognize that you don't actually have to do all of that today. Like this doesn't feel panicked, like panicked energy. Like you could do it all today if you wanted to, but if you also choose to space it out over a few days, like that would be fine too. But some of you may have been feeling more tired and you feel that kind of lifting a little bit. I know for me personally, I'm actually really enjoying this. I've been feeling my feisty energy coming back. Um, and dare I say, even my flirty energy coming back. So, just old pieces of myself that I knew were still there but felt buried. And yeah, I just really like having it back. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, although I do need to be careful because last time I really had this kind of energy come back and I really embodied it. Everybody was acting the fuck up. I worked in the theater and wasn't even trying to flirt too hard, and I had y'all's daddies and grandpas telling me if I was X number of years younger and not married, I'd be trying to date you right now. Then on the flip side, I had to fight off all the like 16-year-olds who were working at the local restaurants, just like talking big shit. Like, boy, if you don't get the fuck away from me right now, I'ma call your mama. Like, you think I'm going to jail for you? Absolutely not. Where the fuck is my food so I can go? So, and some of you may have gotten the feeling that like love is gonna come this year, and you were like, I don't really see it. I'm here and be patient because I got that message too, and I really didn't see it. And now that I got this energy coming back, I just know it's got the potential to be an interesting year. But keep y'all babies away from me. I really have no tolerance for that. So that feisty energy will come out hard and fast if it needs to. So, but if you're feeling good, let it feel good to you. And if you don't yet, take this as your sign that you're gonna get there. You just need more time. I'll be the first to tell you, I have very clumsily gone through this journey myself. And if my stumbling and bumbling ass can get to this point too, you absolutely can. So just trust your process, trust your pace. Things will. It can be very frustrating when you feel like you're really going through it, but it really does get better if you just try to stay present, put one foot in front of the other, and take it one day at a time. That effort really will start compounding for you. So I feel like someone really needs to hear that. So some of these days can feel very heavy, but there are better days that come. And I'm really at a point where I genuinely believe in my heart that at this point, like good days, I consider givens. Like there was a time where I was just hoping the other shoe wouldn't drop. And I'm not there anymore. I trust that the good days are here. They are here to stay. And, even if I have pockets in the day that I don't love, it always rebounds. So keep hanging in there. You're doing a lot better than you think you are. That's coming through very strong. All right, let's jump into these channeled messages. Really what came through earlier this week was really be paying attention to your environment right now. It's really interesting because I've kind of had guys out here in my neighborhood doing like different maintenance. So like they've been trimming trees and stuff like that and wood chipping them. They were cleaning out the storm drains earlier today, and it kind of does reflect like what we're doing right now. We're kind of working on pruning out, which is, I don't want to say waste because that doesn't feel like the right word, but like we're just kind of pruning out what isn't working for us anymore, the things we don't want anymore. You could literally be purging. You can't see it, but all next to me on the floor, I got like a whole bunch of stuff I gotta take to Goodwill when I'm done with this video and stuff. But yeah, it's really just, it's still a time of rest. It's still a time of integration, but also it's really a time to be observing things, and they gave me emphasis on who or what is pouring into you and what is draining you. These things are coming up on purpose. And for a lot of us, and I talked about this in a previous video, things are coming up to give us an opportunity to see, are we going to allow these things? I'm hearing that a lot of us know are actively draining us. Are we going to let that keep playing out the way it historically has been? Or are we going to actually choose to act differently, respond differently? If you feel you need to respond at all, again, you know your situation best and how to react, and really how to respond to that. So I really think it's a big time to, a lot of us have been doing the internal work, and our external world is giving us opportunities to stand in that new energy and move through that energy as opposed to the old. So, think about, just think about, what is pouring into you and what is draining you. And if it is draining you, what do you want to do about that? You don't have to cut everybody off all at once, but if you notice something's draining you, maybe start cutting back on how much you feed that, how much interaction maybe you have with that person or that activity. If social media is leaving you super drained after you close the app, maybe give it a break, put it down, put limits on how long you can be on the app. Stick to those limits. Um, you know, just be thinking about that. Be mindful. What's popping up? What are you observing? The other thing they want me to point out is, what patterns are you noticing? And this can apply to what I just talked about. The example I'll give you is, I had a couple of people I used to subconsciously emotionally caretake for reach out to me in a way that really basically was an invitation to do that again. And for both of them, I didn't do it because I clocked it. And I was like, no, I don't do that anymore. I know I've left that role and I'm not interested in going back in it because I don't want to carry everyone's emotions. Like, we're all adults now. We're gonna do this. If you haven't learned how to do it by now, it's a good time to start. And I did. I acted differently, and I actually was able to release those roles and expectations from my nervous system, which makes it incredibly difficult for any of that to work its way back in. So small changes at this time can have very big ripple effects. But yes, with what patterns are you noticing? For some of you, you may be noticing like there's movies, there's bands, there's songs that you're drawn to. Maybe you are chronically listening to a certain type of song. Maybe there is a band that you're listening to a lot, or maybe, you're watching a movie on repeat. You could be going out in public or driving in your car and feeling like there is a song or a band that seems to almost be following you. You hear it frequently. You know, Pay attention to those things, right? Some of you actually heal through music, like listening to certain music helps you process emotions and actually release them. It actually helps you process wounding. I'm hearing wounding that you're trying to heal. So if you are like listening to the same song over and over and over again, I'm hearing keep doing that until you feel like you don't need it anymore. Like there is a reason for that. Also, if certain bands or certain songs you feel like are following you, you keep hearing them on repeat. Um, Look up the lyrics. Even if you know the song, like I'm hearing, actually look up the lyrics and read them because it feels like there's something in there for you, and you'll know when you read them. Um, some of you could also be seeing repeating locations popping up right now. Just look for things right now that really just keep repeating. There, it doesn't feel like that is, you know, like again, it doesn't feel urgent, especially if you are noticing certain locations popping up. A lot of this feels like awareness and some of you know the universe can get very creative in ways in which they send you signs and messages, and some of you don't. So, just really be receptive and open, you know, really, to how these things come through. And really, the best way to do this is to actually just be present, right? Really be in the moment, be able to actually take in things through the different senses. Um, if that's a little too abstract for you, that's okay. I'll give you some examples for me just because we're all at different points on the journey, and I want to make sure this information makes sense to you. So, um, in all seriousness, like for months, Fleetwood Mac has been following me, particularly songs where Stevie Nicks is the lead singer. And I'm not complaining in any stretch of the imagination. I was raised on classic rock, so I have no complaints. And I love Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks. But those songs tend to follow me, not just, coming up on shuffle in my playlist, but I've heard them in the grocery store. I heard them in the Packy. If you're not from Connecticut, that's the liquor store or the package store or however you call it. But and I also took a pottery class, and there was one class where Fleetwood Mac played like I want to say like 5 times in the 2 hours that I was there, and it was on like a really big playlist. So that was some Twilight Zone shit for me. The other thing is, I've had 2 locations pop up for me in like the past 3 weeks. And one of them is Austin, Texas, and the other is Boston, Massachusetts. Now, the one thing that I will caution you with locations is discernment, right? So the way I kind of know things are signs for me is I actually kind of feel like a little energetic jolt um, when I see them. So it's almost kind of like my energy being like, hi, pay attention. Like if for any reason I zoned out, it kind of like pulls me back together and makes me be present. And so, um, well, I'll use the example. So I just said if you're not in Connecticut. So clearly I'm in Connecticut. So like if it's not uncommon to see Massachusetts license plates here, same thing with Rhode Island, and if you're in certain parts, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, all that kind of stuff. So when I see Massachusetts license plates, I know that's not significant. That's typical. But I've had literally one ad for Boston, like visiting Boston. I think it was like Still Revolutionary or something like that pop up on my TV. I have never seen that before. I haven't seen it since. Um, you know, stuff for Boston was on my Instagram feed. I don't follow any Boston or Austin, Texas type of stuff, So the algorithm may be strong, but if you don't think your team can manipulate your social media algorithm so that you get the right messages you need when you need them, you would be mistaken. So, and the other day when I was doing my first run to Goodwill, because I don't purge all at once, I do it in waves to make sure I don't overdo it and end up with, donation guilt. But when I pulled in behind a cart and it had a Texas license plate, I was like, what are you doing here? Because Texas has my friend in Texas was like, yeah, it's cold. And it was like 65. And it was like, honey, I would do a lot of things for one 65-degree day. And it was like in the low 20s. So I was like, what are you doing here? So try to use your discernment. Um, and again, try to be present so you can kind of pick up on your cues. Like I said, when I see things that I know are significant, I kind of feel like a jolt or like a shock in my energy. And I know that's my cue to be paying attention. That's significant. The other thing is accountability is a really strong theme right now. And I'm not sure why it came through like this, but I am going to honor the way it came through. Some of you may be seeing where other people are falling short right now, but are you holding yourself accountable too? Right? I'm literally hearing all shit stinks. So I'm not sure why it's coming through like this, but no one is perfect. And if people are falling short, what I channeled is, why are you still entertaining them? Why are you still trying to fix these people? Why are you still tolerating this treatment? Right? Because let's be honest, there are times, yes, where people do us wrong. But again, in relationships, there's more than one person involved. This really feels like if you are constantly looking outside of yourself, this is a really good time to actually start looking within yourself and having those honest conversations. Again, are you going to keep feeding into these older things tied to older identities, or are you going to start acting different? And sometimes acting different is really taking a good look at yourself and understanding where you are actually, in some cases, in your own way. This journey at times requires strong accountability. We're not always right, and we are absolutely, in some cases, the villain in other people's stories. And so it's really about learning and growing. So where do we still have room for improvement? Big emphasis on stop entertaining or accepting what you don't want. It is leaving room for these things to stay in your energy. And if you don't want it and you really want to get it out, you have to move differently. Some of you may have to speak up. So there is a little bit of push coming through for this. So I'm also not sure why I wrote this down, but if you're newer to this journey and you're not really sure where you should start with your healing, a starting point would be there are free tests online to determine your love language. Oh, okay. I saw a post on social media that talked about this, but with a lot of social media, like once you pass by it, that post kind of goes into the abyss and you never really find it again if you didn't save it. There, you can actually take a test to identify your love language, and then you can actually go into Google and basically type in your love language, um, and your healing journey or, wounding, and related wounding. And so let me give you an example to try to help that make more sense. So my love language is acts of service. And, when I kind of read that post, because I'm curious, I'll be the first to admit, I was like, I want to see what it says about me and just, see if that actually resonates, because I never really thought of the idea. Um, and it kind of read me for filth, if I'm being honest. It talked about how people who have acts of service as a love language often had support that wasn't always available, if it was available at all. These people had a tendency to be hyper independent as a result. Some of them can be more controlling because that actually gave them the basically the illusion that, if I just like managed all of this and took care of all of this and da da da, that nothing bad would happen and all that kind of stuff. And it goes on, but, I know from my personal experience that, yeah, that is the case, and, that can be helpful if you don't know where to start. For me, I think it was more of, A, I was curious, but I also think B, my team wanted me to understand that the things that I have been working on and making progress with, um, were just being confirmed. Like I was actually working on the right things and that I wasn't actually missing anything because when they told me love was coming, I was like, I don't think I'm ready. And they were like, you are. So I know that also played a role in it too. And they're like, see, you're already covering what you need to cover. Like, no need to worry. All right, so let's jump in. So the topic today is why quietness can feel unsettling during transformation. And let me take a look at the time, 27:51. So let me just write that down. I am going to try to put timestamps between the channeled messages and when they start. This is really a continuation of the past video. When I was wrapping that one up, I really felt like there was more that wanted to come out about the quiet aspect, but I also knew that wasn't the right video to cover it. And I also can't help but feel like other people wanted to better understand the quietness, and why things should be expected to be more quiet moving forward. So that's really what we're going to go through. And this actually, to me, is a more straightforward message. I'm not sure if there's going to be a ton to channel, but there's definite, well, other than what was already channeled, but um, there's definitely a lot to talk about this. And so my goal with this is to kind of go through it. And hopefully this takes some of that unease, some of that tension, some of that confusion out if you are going this through this quiet portion of this journey. Because a lot of us, we go through the chaos and then there tends to be quiet. It may not be this way for everyone, but that's usually the way it goes. Chaos happens, things crumble, things need to be readjusted, and then there's a quiet period, and then, depending on your journey, you might go through another period again. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought at one point, for about I'm not joking, like 2 years of my life, I like just went through that cycle about every 6 months with a different area of my life. And it's really funny because I always thought like the chaos aspect of it was going to be like what really did me in. But I'm not going to hold you. It's actually the quiet part. And I'm still honestly not great with it. I'm actually in the quiet part now. And some days I'm good, and some days I feel squirrely. Um, so if you're feeling squirrely, that's okay too. You can be feeling squirrely and still, make progress and do what you need to do. This is really not the time to be putting pressure on yourself or judging yourself. So, why does quietness sometimes feel unsettling during transformation? The first is the quiet takes away mirrors. What do mirrors do? They reflect, they give you feedback, right? Even if you think about your appearance, right? You see a reflection of yourself. If you don't like your hair, you can fix your hair. You got something in your teeth, you can get it out of your teeth. It gives you some set of feedback that you can work with and make adjustments. And when life gets quiet, that feedback loop stops. And sometimes it stops abruptly. So you get no reactions, no resistance, no validation. And that can, without that feedback loop, that can really make your identity feel unstable. And I want to be very clear, it can make your identity feel unstable. That's not saying you are unstable, all right? Because we are often in this journey more stable than we really think we are. And I have gotten that feedback so much from my team on really rough days that I'm at the point where I don't doubt it. I just remind myself that things are still shifting inside, and that has not been reflected in my outer experience yet. So just because you feel unstable does not mean you are unstable. And I would encourage you to really, you know, try to use the words feel instead of be, because again, you can feel unstable and still be stable. And again, I'm hearing you are doing so much better than you think you are at this point. And really, before these quiet periods come through, we often don't see how much of our identity and our sense of self is regulated by these mirrors and these feedback loops, right? Like we just see, it's really regulated by things like conflict. A lot of us were doing a lot more proving and performing than we really realized, and a lot of times we were being witnessed. A lot of us were thinking about how we were, again, being perceived by witnesses. That's a lot of energy going to things outside of us. That's incredibly draining. And so, really, what the quietness does is it just removes this all at once, and suddenly it's just us in almost what feels like a vacuum, like you have no reference point. And when you're used to the chaos and the feedback and just kind of the constant noise of how life is down here, it can feel like a big shock to the system. And again, it's just a time to really just take a breath, take a step back, and just try to really, really be a good friend to yourself. Whether you're loving whether you're really loving yourself or you're learning to love yourself at that time. That's really when it's important because, again, I remember the first time it happened to me and I was like, man, I wanted peace, but shit, not like this. Like it just got really quiet immediately and I'm not gonna lie, it almost sent me into a spiral. Like it was close. Um, the other point they want me to bring up is silence often comes after chaos, but not before clarity. And that can also be very jarring because a lot of us, um, when things end, a lot of us kind of, this world almost kind of tries to prime us for like immediate satisfaction, right? So, like when something chaotic ends, or something unstable ends, a lot of us expect things like immediate relief, that will feel certainty, that there will just be closure and that we'll just have that momentum and be able to move on from it, kind of just cut our losses and go, and I don't know if anyone has actually had that experience. If you have, kudos. But I imagine, I know for me, and since I was guided to make this video, I'm pretty sure there's more of us. You just get stillness. You don't get that stuff up front, that instant gratification, that kind of closure, that just move on with your life type of thing. It just does not actually come through immediately. And the reason why they really want me to bring this up is because this is the time frame where we go into recovery. Whether we're willing to admit it or not, we have frankly been through some shit. And your nervous system needs time to stand down, after really being on high alert and process things, and part of what processes is actually the emotions that a lot of us repressed, pushed aside. I mean, pick whatever word you want. We just didn't deal with. Like all the things that we put on hold need time to come to the surface. They need to be processed. They need to be let go of, So like when that's really one of the primary things your nervous system needs with that slowdown is it just needs time to go through. You did what you needed to do to survive, to get through that time period and go through those changes. Just because you had to do what you need to do didn't mean that your mind or your body has forgotten. A lot of us think if we just logic our way through it in our conscious mind that like we're over it, we're done, throw it aside, like that's old. Like, no, everything else needs to catch up. And that's what the quietness is about. And that can also add to the discomfort you feel during this time because you'd be like, I thought I was over that. I thought I had dealt with that. And all of a sudden I've got all these emotions coming up. Well, guess what? That's exactly what you need to be doing. That's exactly what your system needs. And so, when things slow down, you get things like grief, disappointment, heartbreak, mixed feelings, all the beautiful and messy aspects of actually being human have to come up and be processed. If we weren't meant to feel all these emotions, I don't think we'd have them. And so the fact that you need to heal it, process it, to really release it and allow things to move through so you can move forward, again, that's a crucial step. So, as uncomfortable as this is, it is such an important aspect of transformation, and I'm literally hearing this can't be bypassed. Even if you try to, at some point, this gonna catch up with your ass. So I don't even know where that came from, but we're gonna honor that one. So yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, embrace this time for what it is. It serves a purpose, and the less you fight it, the more smooth you might find you work through this. You fought yourself enough. This ain't the time. So, yeah, and they want me to highlight, when when we have all these big emotions coming up, a lot of times we can think something is wrong, and really what they're saying is, like that's they don't want you to interpret it in that way at all. They really want you to look at it as a sign that you actually feel safe enough. Like your body, your nervous system needs to feel a certain level of safety in order to let these emotions go, because really what these emotions are is really your system going, oh, okay, we're safe enough where we don't actually have to hold on to this anymore. Good, okay, let's let it go. So some of you may be thinking that something's really wrong with you, and you're just, for some of us, the first time in a while feeling safe. So again, just let it out however it goes. You can, again, allow that to move through you in a constructive manner. If you're angry, you can work out, and all that kind of stuff. You can channel these emotions into art, into poetry. Again, you can listen to, if you're crying and you really want to listen to music that really helps your body kind of lean into it, like that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There are constructive ways to move through it. And also if you are crying a lot and you're having like those short bursts, because I know when the short bursts started happening to me, I was like, what the fuck is this? Because they would literally go on for like majority of the day. But if you're crying very hard for like 30 to 90 seconds and then you're done, that's a very controlled process. And your team and higher aspects of yourself, if you don't believe in that, then just don't take this. But if you do, when that is happening, that is very controlled. That's a very controlled, very deliberate process, to make sure that you don't overwhelm your system, and basically allows you to release things in waves that also avoid your body collapsing. Trust that process. It's uncomfortable, and it can feel disruptive, but if you are going through that, it can feel like a lot in the process, but that's very controlled. You have a lot more support with that than you can imagine. All right, so keeping back with the message, stillness really disrupts the body's reward system. And I talked about this a little bit earlier. We're really, whether you want to believe it or not, there is a lot of emphasis um, on really just constantly being in motion, constantly doing things, constantly, carrying a lot of mental load, all that kind of stuff. We're really conditioned to really be a human doing instead of a human being. And so for a lot of us, we associate movement with safety, productivity with worth, and reaction with relevance. And quiet and stillness just completely flies in the face of all of it. And so sometimes when you're going through this, you can feel like you're really fighting yourself. Because I know how that's, That's how it felt to me. I really felt like I was actually like having internal wars with myself. And what you're really doing is you're actually fighting that conditioning, that programming. Because again, you just need stillness. You need more quiet. You need less input. You need to be doing less things, to really allow for this process to move through. And even if you only have short periods of time to do that, you can still make progress and move through that, So the other thing that, can be really, my word I would use is annoying, is there's no immediate payoff. There's no like markers for you to use to see how far you're progressing, you know. And to be honest, the external confirmations, that things are working out, um, they don't come in this phase. They really don't. Like I was talking about earlier, I know I am releasing significant things right now, but all it really feels like is less tension in the body. I'm telling you, my jaw has not felt this loose in literal years. You know, um, those are my signs that I am actually going through these changes and stuff. There's no, my day-to-day life has not changed significantly. I know it will, but not yet. And so a lot of this is really, it's really about trusting your process and trusting that you're doing what you need to be doing to the best of your abilities, right? Because we all still have lives, we all still have responsibilities. Certain things cannot be neglected, and that's okay. So if you're doing the best you can with what you have, you are doing great. You really are. So just remember, this discomfort is not your intuition. You're not doing anything wrong. It's really just your nervous system recalibrating and doing what it needs to do. So this next section is going to be a little sensitive. So if you need to pause, if you need to take a break, or even if you need to stop listening, that's okay. Protect yourself, all right? Because I know I went through this, and this also almost caused another spiral. Caught it, but um, they want to acknowledge that the quiet can feel like you're losing your identity. Um, during real transformations, old motivations, old habits, old coping mechanisms, things of that sort, just the old in general, really stops working for a lot of us. The way we built our lives and moved through our lives and in some cases coped with the circumstances in our lives, it just stops working. And usually by the time you recognize things aren't working as well, um, I noticed shortly after that that shit just stopped working at all. Um, you know, and again, that can be very challenging because again, it's like, what do I do? You know, how do I get through this? It can be a big shock to the system. Those old roles don't fit you anymore either. And for a lot of us, I didn't even intend to say a lot of us, but I'll honor that too. But for a lot of us, we've been filling roles that we may not have even recognized we were in. For some of us, we just inherited them. For some of them, they were assigned. We did not always pick these roles that, we're now breaking out of. you know. And the good news is at some point you start to realize the old fears just start losing their grip, and to me that really was the light that I needed at one point was, these things that I just thought really had power over me just didn't. I just woke up one day and was just kind of like, I don't know why I viewed it that way before, but I don't feel that way now. So it's not all bad, but the old fears losing their grip. I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of crying to release fear. So if you are like going through that crying phase and feeling a lot of fear, I want you to really, really focus on your breath. Um, if that fear coming up is really um, really making it hard for you, my advice is lay on the floor. There's no shame. Lay on the floor. You can lay on the floor, still cry, and I found that actually allows that fear to like pass through easier because actually for me I was when I was releasing really big fears, I was actually crying so hard I was concerned I was going to fall because sometimes I was standing when they started. So you can literally, if you're going through that and it's really hard and it's really taking a toll on your body, you can actually just lay down. You can sit down, and just take a little less mental load off of yourself while you let that go through. But, if you are having releases and those fears are coming up, it can be challenging in the moment, and if you can't do it in the moment, that's okay. But after that, really try to focus on your breathing. If you need to, put one hand over your heart and one hand over your stomach, and do deep breaths and keep the exhale a little bit longer than your inhale to try to help you kind of bring yourself back into your body and really just give your body some support after that. Because I'm not gonna lie, for me personally, that was one of the hardest things to work through. I had a lot of fear that needed to be released. And they want me to tell you this, so I will say that too. I actually have a fear of being seen. And part of this channel and making these videos is like every time I do this, I actually the hardest part of this for me is actually starting the video. Like it takes me probably around 15 minutes to start a video just because I feel very anxious leading up to it. And I just at some point have to just hit the button and go. Um, so just because you move through a lot of that stuff doesn't mean it's all just gone. I still have things that I'm working through too. So we're all successes in progress. Um, so yeah, part of what makes this portion challenging is you're coming out of the old identity. The new one hasn't fully formed yet. And it takes time because there's a lot of residue. It's not just the initial releases that are significant, there is residue, in your energy, in your body, in your mind, all of that good stuff. And that needs to be cleaned up too. So even if you have the initial releases, there's just more that needs to be done. So more room needs to be made to allow for the new to come in and anchor in. And that in between space can feel very empty. It can feel confusing. It can feel numb. And it's not because anything is wrong. It's because there is a lot of reorganizing going on, including your identity. We're releasing the things that never were actually who we truly were. Again, we just had that, we carried that for so long we thought it was. And it's going to take time for the new to work in, and it's going to take time for us to, get comfortable with it and really start to understand, you know, this is who we truly are. This is how it feels. We're really learning a new way to live, a true, authentic way for us to live. That is no child's play, and that doesn't happen overnight. And to a certain extent, thank goodness for that, because if you think this portion's jarring, imagine just having an old version of yourself ripped out and a new one put in overnight, Like, I actually think that would be worse. Um, yeah, this is the part where it gets really interesting. So, silence checks whether you'll rush or regulate. And this is why I always encourage you all to be patient with yourself. Because again, we're not doing small things here. These are big changes. So, the quiet often creates the urge to fill a space, make a quick decision, in some cases, recreate old patterns just to feel something again. And as tempting as that is, you know, the caution is not all movement is forward. There is a certain point in this journey where you will have the opportunity to go back and stay there if you want to. That is part of the option of this quietness, of this quiet in between phase. What do you want to do? And so, you know, it's easy to go back to what you know. And if you do decide to do that, I want to tell you there's nothing wrong. We are on our own journeys, and you may not be ready to do that. And if you change your mind, you can wake up any day and just change habits, change patterns, choose differently. This isn't like if you skip this and you decide you're not ready, that like all of a sudden this just poof goes away forever. That's not the case, right? There's a lot of room for grace in this process. I have not always been ready to move forward, and sometimes I honestly get spiritual boot to ass if I'm hedging on things from my team. I have times where my team makes me physically uncomfortable if I am not doing things that I am supposed to do, particularly if I have messages for people. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I need to say that. Like, I don't think I need to do that. Like, I'm telling you, the level of discomfort I will feel is unreal. So that's why these videos are so unpolished, because sometimes I think I won't need to say something, and then it's like, no, I do. So I have to, cover that. But sometimes stillness is where the clarity actually forms if you can tolerate this period with enough time. The clarity comes, but you need to not force the outcomes. And that can make it very uncomfortable. Like I said, I spend more time in this phase, particularly early on, feeling squirrely as fuck. Genuinely uncomfortable. Like, thought the chaos was going to kill me, and then I was like, nope, it's the silence. Just one day at a time. One day at a time. And you can get through this if that's what you want to do. The really empowering part about this portion of the journey is the quiet actually restores the authority to you. Whether we recognize it or not in the moment, when things are loud and there's a lot going on, things are very chaotic. Whether we think it or not, we actually don't tend to make our own choices, right? The urgency, the pressure, other people's expectations, can heavily influence our decisions, whether we consciously realize that or not. You know, and the quiet aspect of this portion of the journey is it really removes those forces, right? Because things have shaken up, things are different. You know, we're not looking at things the same way. And so, you know, part of what can be unsettling is there's just no one to actually tell us what's next. That's why, you know, at some point you have to really start stepping into your co-creator energy. What do you want? What type of experience do you want? What type of people do you want around you? You know, that's why I made a video about it's time to start playing with the universe and see what happens. Because for a lot of us, you're either in this energy or you're getting ready to move into this energy at some point. You know, there's really, you know, there's no like crisis, tower moment, or chaotic event that's really going to come in and drive our decisions for us. You know, this is where we get intentional and discern what we want. And so responsibility comes back to us. And your self trust and knowing what's best for you has to at some point replace the reactivity of everything going on around us. So it's a beautiful opportunity. Again, if you choose to embrace that. And if you're not ready, that's okay. Take your time. So quiet also separates impulse from intuition. Because again, as you kind of stop feeding those things, you know, those old roles, those old expectations, all that kind of stuff, you know, it just loses their charge, you know, if I'm being really honest. You know, it loses its urgency and stuff like that. And a lot of that is kind of like that junk being removed. And really what that does is it allows your intuition to come through more clear, you know. But part of what can be unsettling is really just the fact that, you know, before I went through this, my team kind of had to like shout at me in order for me to hear them, you know, because they had to kind of get through all the other noise that I had in my energy. And I've noticed as I keep going through this, like my team gets quieter and quieter and quieter. Like there's no shouting anymore. When I literally say in these videos, like I heard quietly, like skip it, I mean it. It came through very quietly. And if I wasn't listening, I would miss it, you know? So, you know, just because you don't hear things or sense things the way you did before, it doesn't mean that you're not still being guided. Again, it's just things are getting quiet because you're clearing out what no longer serves. So, and really, why is it getting quieter? Because old habits, you know, internal noise is settling, discernment's rebuilding, and again, you're just slowly but surely releasing the old. You know, you're really cleaning out your energy and cleaning out other people's energy too. You know, and I'm still cleaning out other people's energy myself, but it's a lot better than it used to be. You know, adrenaline is loud. Intuition is quiet or quieter, depending. By the time my guides are shouting at me, I know I'm in trouble. If they're shouting at me, I'm wishing I had gotten spiritual boot to ass instead. Um, the last point I want to bring up is I think probably one of the most important things. Quiet is a threshold, not a destination, right? We are releasing and aligning. We are integrating. You don't stay here forever. You don't want to stay here forever. The in-between serves a purpose. It is a recalibration. We do what we need to be, we do what we need to do here, and we leave, right? We say thank you on the way out, but we keep moving on the way out, you know? So we're really, again, the goal isn't to escape this, and it's not to romanticize it. You are here to really make room for who you're becoming. You're moving, you're really moving into intention. We are rebuilding. This is a phase, it has a purpose, and it will come to an end. All right? So let it do its job. Let it do what it needs to do. Like I said, say thank you and get the fuck out. All right? You really, because if you stay here for too long, it can, you may end up making yourself confused. The goal is to be in here, do what needs to do, set your intentions if you know you're in the in between, however you want to, right? If you are concerned you may stay here for too long, just say, thank you for moving me through this in between phase, and move me into the new version of myself in divine timing, however you want to say it, right? You can set your intentions that you'll do what you need to do here and move out, and trust that is going to happen in the right time, and trust that you'll know when that's right. So, to really summarize this up, when you're in this phase, the old systems have shut down or they're shutting down. The new ones are still organizing, and you can really feel unsettled sometimes because this is power without instruction. But you need to trust, I want you to really trust that you will get the instructions you need when you need them, and you will move through this phase. And even though sometimes it's very challenging being here, things do get easier. They do get better. And I find the more I surrender to the process and let things do what they need to do, that I just start kind of naturally moving through this and moving toward what is truly coming next and what is aligned to me and the greatest and highest version of me. Okay. I'm hearing that's it. So remember, you're not behind, you're not lost, you're shifting and you're realigning. And this can feel like heavy work at times, and it can feel uncomfortable as well. All right. So please be kind and patient with yourself as you move through this process. And just you're learning to live life in a different way, and you're learning to trust yourself more and more. So take care of yourselves, beautiful souls. All right. If this resonates with you, stay tuned. I'll be posting more. All right. Bye.